Hi, everybody. Stefan Molyneux from Freedom Main Radio. I hope you're doing well. I'm here with Mike, and we're going to have a little chit chat about some stuff that went on last night. Kind of escapes me at the moment. Mike, perhaps you could refresh my memory.
It's morning in America. Well, actually, it's the afternoon, but that famous line comes to mind.
It's morning without the U. It would be Mourning had Hillary Clinton got in, but it's morning in America because Donald J. Trump, come January, 70 days
Oh,
from now, something like that, will be the new president of the United States.
It was a long and emotional roller coaster of a night last night. And, after having the mainstream media, the Republican establishment, all the never Trumpers, the Democrats, the amount of people that are against Trump and against anyone that dared, tell facts about Trump and try and
like me.
debunk all the lies that were floating around there, the mainstream media, of course. I was fairly confident that last night was going to go the way that it went. I heard polling information from friends that said, "Hey, this is looking really good," but at the same time, you never know. And I did think for a moment, they're just going to take it from him. They're going to voter fraud or this fractional voting, fractional reserve voting thing.
Doesn't that Trump one prove that it was rigged, just like he said?
That Alex Jones had some people from Black Box Voting on talking about not too long
Lock him up! Lock him up!
ago. I'm like, they're not going to let him take it. They're not going to let it happen. But after an incredible emotional roller coaster, which saw the New York Times dial
Which raises the question of why did they let him take it?
on election predictions practically flip around completely, Donald Trump won the presidency last night. And boy, they didn't want to call that. They didn't want to call Pennsylvania. They didn't want to call, I'm not even sure if they have called Michigan yet. There's
Because it was very
Hillary Clinton
painful.
didn't want to concede last night. She had John Podesta go up there and say, "No, we're still counting the votes. We're still counting the votes." She's not going to come out and make a speech. And then around 4 p.m. or 4 a.m., Donald Trump gave out and gave his victory speech. And good God, it was a wonderful, wonderful night.
Well, it was tough for them to call it. I mean, it was the end of a dream for most of the mainstream media to actually call it. And I've no doubt if it had been going the other way, it would have been called significantly earlier. Do you know that the Chinese media called it before the American media? That the Chinese communist totalitarian controlled monopoly media is more honest and flexible and open and empirical and reality based than the American media. My assumption was that they, of course, didn't want to call it because they wanted to give her plane time to make it to Qatari airspace. That's my particular thought.
Someplace that'll give her asylum.
Yeah, it was tough watching them not call it Broward County. We're gonna find a Hillary supporter hiding
That's so funny. Because, of course, that happened.
in the woods in Broward County, and it's all gonna be fine.
Of course, given what we know about voter fraud, and there was lots and lots and lots of reports of voter fraud and lots of hinky stuff going down in Pennsylvania specifically, and Philadelphia to be even more specific. So the idea that something was going to happen and they were going to try and
So it was rigged, but you still won. Wow, you guys are awesome.
steal it, or there'd be lawsuits and recounts, and who knows what type of nonsense would go on with that. I mean, as soon as Podesta came out and she didn't concede, that's immediately what I'm thinking, and that's what everyone else is thinking. And it's like, oh, we won. Come on, can the fight be over? I mean, the fight's not over, folks, but this element, can we just concede? Can we just move on from here? And thankfully, late in the morning, around 3 a.m. or so, Clinton finally did call Trump to concede, which, God, if I ever wanted to hear a phone call in my life, that's the phone call I wish I could have heard. But
Well, I also got this. I also got the sense, given how Florida was swinging back and forth, that Mike and I were chatting back and forth, and at one point it was like 1,000 votes out of what 4 million, or like it was something completely mental. It was so close, and I could see a huge amount of Trump supporters getting at the top of Florida with a hacksaw just ready to saw off America's penis and throw it into the ocean if it had gone that way. But
the panhandle came through. The panhandle's a heavy Trump area in
yes,
Florida, and they came through in the end, without question.
and there's only one thing that I found disappointing last night, and I just want to get this out of the way before we move on to the truly legitimate celebrations. Mike, I got to tell you, last night I began to really lose faith in the efficacy of satanic rituals and spirit cooking to gain power. I obviously have changed a lot of my future strategies for gaining control of media over the internet, and now the smoky devils who are
So funny. You're so funny.
constantly asking me for my soul in return for more media power, I put them on hold because, if you're going to sell your soul to the devil, at least you want to get the presidency in return or some major control. But boy, I think it was a little bit of a bait and switch with the old smoky demons of power. That's just wanted to get that past because formerly I have put a lot of stock in that stuff, but now I'm really going to have to reevaluate both what happened there
We
and what's
know
going to
you
happen to
have,
me. So I just wanted to
Well,
Stefan.
the
get that.
polling
We know
models
you
were
have.
wrong, and I guess whatever models they used to determine the amount of goats that needed to be sacrificed to Satan in order to give Hillary Clinton the presidency, those models were also skewed. But don't worry, folks, despite
Or the other funny thing is how stupid all of these theories turned out to be. Right? If it's rigged, then for some reason the Illuminati wants Trump. Oh, what are you going to do about that? Well, nothing.
the fact that the polling models were completely and totally wrong, way to go, Bill Mitchell, for pointing that out along the way, being the most prolific voice and pointing that out. Despite the fact that all the polling models are wrong, all these other economic forecasts and all these other climate models, all that stuff is still 100% correct, folks. So let's just not get that confused at all. All this modeling, completely 100% accurate. We just, there's just one slight error tonight.
Well, on the plus side as well, a lot of the Hillary campaign team, who seem to be very much into eating pain, will have a lot of pain to eat. It's going to be basically a beggar's banquet of pain. So
Smorgasbord.
that's right. That's right.
Subpoenas.
Well, I don't understand why that would be. I mean, I only lose if Trump does terrible things. If it turns out my vote against him was wrong, then I win, right? Because he was good after all. So I win. How could I do anything but win?
Jail sentences.
Were there any
Exile to
surprises for
foreign
you, Mike,
lands.
in the demographics of what turned out? There certainly were some for me, and I'll sort of get into mine. But was there anything that you saw being broken down in the pro-Trump vote that gave you some delicious electric spider webs of surprise?
I haven't had too much of a chance to really pour through the demographics stuff yet, but at one point I heard that Trump was winning 25% of Hispanics.
I've heard, yeah, blacks and Hispanics and women, particularly in Florida, came out strongly for Trump. And
Well, in the sense that they didn't come out strongly in general.
for that, I'm going to just express some positive sentiments and gratitude. I know we hit that stuff pretty hard in our presentations. Maybe we helped for people to listen, but I think in particular, young men, of course, came out hard for Trump, which is odd because it's like they don't have any
Hard for
loyalty to
Trump.
their future positions as nuclear shadows in Hillary's global domination schemes. I guess they just lacked loyalty to her. They lacked the willingness for self-sacrifice, but they did
Who
seem
wouldn't
to
want to
turn to
just
Trump.
march into war with Russia? I mean, come on. Who wouldn't want to just charge into war with Russia? I don't know what's wrong with these young men. Clearly, they
Yeah,
just don't have their
really,
priorities.
right.
Yeah,
Because Republicans are so pro-Russia.
Europeans fighting each other has worked out really well so far. So let's just keep that up because First World War and Second World War were just fantastic for Western civilization. I'm sure one more would be getting us over the hump.
Oh man, I don't even know what to say
This sounds like a guy that doesn't respect MacArthur.
about last night.
Get it? MacArthur. That's the way Trump says it.
I mean, just straight away, there are some people that deserve to be thanked. I just want to say, obviously, thank you to Donald J. Trump for putting yourself on the line, putting your
Thank
business
you,
on hold,
Trump.
to do probably one of the most heroic things that's ever been done, certainly in the political arena
In the
in recent times.
world,
Also, thank you to Donald Trump's
most
family
terrific.
for putting up with the insane amount of work and scorn that was directed their way over the course of all this, the slings and arrows that they took, which a lot of people don't understand or aren't sympathetic to. But major kudos to them and thank you. Ann Coulter, Steph. Is there something you'd like to say to Ann Coulter, who pretty much wrote the book on the this Trump presidential campaign twice.
Gary's in the chat.
Blonde Goddess of Essential Republicanism. I have been a huge fan of hers, and it was a great thrill to have her on the show. I'm sure we can get her back on at some point, but she was prescient. She had, like myself, not really paid much attention to the demographics and the immigration issue. It wasn't until I saw the demographic winter videos on that were taking that were going over what was happening in Europe that I began to really wake up to that stuff a couple of years ago. But she was tireless and a real workhorse, and she did countless television and radio and podcast interviews, constantly making these politically incorrect but essential points, and she was indefatigable. And talk about somebody who had a great venue, a great presentation. She's always been a very entertaining and witty writer and public speaker and interview guest, and she was magnificent. And
Adios America.
I bet she wasn't. I don't know what he's talking about, but it was probably
there's
terrible.
very few books that you can point to and say, I think that book actually shifted American history, but that one's on the list.
Yeah, I guess Second Treatise on Government and Adios America, and yeah, that she was amazing, and I'm glad she said that if Trump didn't win, she was going to basically give up on politics and turn to writing mysteries, which I guess is something she's wanted to do for a while. I'm very glad that she gets to continue as a pundit and a fiery intellectual touchstone for essential information in American politics. So yeah, kudos to her. That was magnificent.
And everyone needs to go and watch the June 2015 clip of her on Real Time with Bill Maher, where they ask her, who do you think of the Republicans that have announced? Who's the most likely choice to be president? And she says, Donald Trump, and everyone laughs at her. Oh, it's so delicious to watch that clip today. It really, truly is. Everyone should take 90 seconds out of your day to pull that up on YouTube and give it a watch. Oh, it's wonderful. I also want to, obviously, there's a lot of people to thank.
Let's take some time, let's do the roll call, because a lot of people made this happen.
Mike Cernovich for driving news cycles in a way that, brought social media to the forefront in a way that no one thought was really possible. Paul Joseph Watson certainly plays into that as well. Great work from Paul.
Oh, and sorry, I just wanted to interrupt because it's harder for people to see that historical perspective. But very briefly, FDR got in because of radio. JFK got in because of television. And Donald J. Trump got in because of social media, I would sort of argue. And these were the people at the forefront of driving that narrative.
Yeah, Mike Cernovich and Paul Joseph Watson in that realm, absolutely. Charles C. Johnson, who, friend of ours, who's certainly done a lot of work on the back end that people might not be familiar with, who played a critical role in this happening. Thank you, Charles. You are awesome. Alex Jones, the whole InfoWars crew. I mean, how many hours did they do streaming this election cycle, not to mention covering it the whole time? I mean, tireless work from all those guys.
And also, sorry to interrupt as well, but for Alex Jones and that crew, who have for a long time, and there are lots of people who've been doing it, but a lot of scorn and skepticism was focused on those guys. They've been talking about occult influences in American politics. And of course, it's very easy to say, oh, that's nonsense. It's
okay. To be honest, I walked away from the keyboard.
I hope that the word conspiracy theory or the phrase conspiracy theory gets retired for a time. It's a little tired. It's been used for just about, not everyone who disagrees with you is a tinfoil hat wearing nut job or Hitler. And for those who were skeptical of this kind of information, I hope that they will apologize and publicly do so, especially if you've posted about, oh, he's crazy, it's a conspiracy theory. And this is not just Alex Jones, but he, of course, has taken a lot of those hits.
Everyone on this list has been just relentlessly attacked by the media and people at large.
Oh my God, so, Alex Jones they're defending?
Next on the list, I got Bill Mitchell, who, again, his optimism when it comes to polling. Optimism based on facts and reality and breaking down the Democratic oversampling and everything. Bill Mitchell's just been absolutely fantastic to pay attention to over the course of this election cycle, and he deserves a lot of credit for calling it in a way that none of the mainstream pollsters did.
Well, and we'll put everyone's Twitter links below. You just go follow these guys on Twitter. But what's really weird about Bill and amazing about Bill is all of the mainstream media pundits have said that it was impossible to know ahead of time. No one got it right. No one called it. Of course, they just want to make sure that everyone puts them in the same basket of it was completely impossible to foresee, when, of course, there were lots of people on the internet who were foreseeing it very clearly and very accurately, using the same data, the same raw data. Bill was an expert at breaking down polling bias, which we'll sort of get to in a second. But he actually dove into the roots roots of the mathematical algorithms used to produce these polls, and recognized and pointed out repeatedly that it was oversampling Democrats. I was reading one post where the pollsters who called up asked to speak to the youngest male or female in the House in order to run their poll, knowing that the younger you are, the more likely you are to be still stuck inside the amniotic sac of academia or living at home, and more likely then to be on the left. And he was continually breaking this down. And given that I believe that polls were used as a weapon of demoralization, as a weapon of psychological warfare in this battle, he was essential in pushing back against that narrative.
Absolutely. And when you
Okay,
talk
let's
about
see.
people
I'm
that called
opening
it
a window
early
now.
on,
Let's see.
despite the fact that who could have known? Who could have known? You got to put Scott Adams on
Which
that list
window
for
does...
calling this thing before I think just about anyone else. Scott Adams, who's been on the show a few times and actually predicted the.
Okay, so I'm trying to open a Hangout because Gary was there. So let's see. It takes a little bit of concentration. Fuck, where's the window I was using? This one. Okay, this one. I'm gonna put the link in the. Oh, there's no video, of course, because the video is streaming. So complicated, computers. Okay, so there's the link. I will. Let's see. I'll go over and put it here. No, that's not it. Oh, over here. Bing. Okay, so what was I going to show over here? Oh, yeah. Right. The Google Hangout. Now we have that. If anybody shows up, that is. Okay, there is the Google Hangout. Now, I have to find that somewhere. What? Oh, I see. Let's see. Bow. Chow. Okay, I got that. Not there. Okay, there's the link. I don't know how to put the link in the description because the description is all delayed. There's the link in the chat. So let's listen to a little more. What's in face? Why can't I hear him? Oh, fuck. That makes no sense. Oh, because that's the way that... Yeah, that's because the Hangout's open. Well, that sucks ass. Fucking A. Anyway, there's a room open if anybody. I don't know where I can put the link else. My name says he's not too focused on what the news media is saying. Okay, let's see. If I do this. Okay, so, oh, and that's not even fucking started. So people could come in, but it's not started. Where is that window? Oh, hey.